Treasurer Scott Morrison has issued a stark warning in the wake of the largest corporate tax cut in U.S. history, saying international companies will flee the country while Australians are sitting on the beach this summer. Mr. Morrison has become so alarmed at the prospect of Australia being left with a corporate tax rate of 30% that he fears February, when Parliament is due to return, will be too late, as Northern Hemisphere-based companies will be making decisions in January on whether to stay in Australia or move elsewhere. They will be considering their investment plans over their winter, our summer, Mr. Morrison told Fairfax Media in an interview to mark the end of the year. While many Australians will be at the beach, the investment chiefs in major companies will be at work. The Treasurer said he had stopped talking to the crossbench about his proposal to cut taxes from 30 to 25% over 10 years because he knew their position and that it was time for Bill Shorten to abandon his bloody-minded recalcitrant opposition to provide investment certainty. The Turnbull government faces the near-impossible task of getting the tax cut for all companies through the Senate after the Nick Xenophon team confirmed to Fairfax Media on Thursday it would not back the move. "We do not support the government's proposed tax cuts for big business as this would be fiscally irresponsible and the economic evidence is questionable," said NXT Senator Sterling Griff. Independent Senator Lucy Gaikuai, who has historically sided with the government, remains undecided. A One Nation spokesman said the party had yet to see any proposals come across its desk. The government needs the 4 One Nation votes and the 3 votes of NXT to have any hope of reaching the required 10 crossbench votes to pass the legislation, as Labour and the Greens are strongly opposed. Mr. Morrison took a swipe at the crossbench and called for Labour leader Bill Shorten and Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen to have a fair dinkum discussion about tax cuts after US President Donald Trump successfully reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% on Thursday. The crossbench can't always be relied upon to do the economic heavy lifting, and you would expect a mainstream political party like Labour to know better, Mr. Morrison said. Labour's Shadow Assistant Treasurer Andrew Lee said analysis by the U.S. Congressional Budget Office showed after tax concessions Australia's effective corporate tax rate is the 9th highest in the G20 and therefore in the middle of the pack, just behind the US. Effectively, the argument that's being made by the Liberals is that we should follow Donald Trump wherever he leads, he said. "We have seen wages stagnate, and yet the Liberals' answer to Australia's economic challenges has been a budget-busting corporate tax cut for big multinationals paid for by raising taxes on middle Australia." Mr. Morrison said that company tax cuts and personal income tax relief were his biggest challenges for 2018. According to the budget, the so-called tax speed limit does not come into force until 2020-21. When taxes reach the government's limit of 23.9% of GDP and the economy reaches a 1% surplus.